You know what they say about perfect relationships? They're perfectly fake. My name is Leo Carter, and I should have seen this coming from a mile away. But when you're 32, working as a software engineer in suburban Dallas, and your Instagram-famous fiancé starts talking about exploring new relationship dynamics, you tend to rationalize the red flags until they're slapping you in the face. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Maya Jensen was everything I thought I wanted. Fitness instructor, social media influencer with 50,000 followers, the kind of woman who could make a protein shake look like a fashion statement. We'd been together for 3 years, engaged for 6 months, and I was stupid enough to think her sudden interest in open communication meant we were growing closer. Leo, babe, you know how much I value honesty in our relationship, right? Maya said one Tuesday evening, not looking up from her phone as she scrolled through her Instagram comments. She was sitting cross-legged on our couch, wearing those overpriced yoga pants that cost more than my monthly Netflix subscription. Sure, I replied, glancing up from my laptop where I was debugging code for a client's e-commerce site. Honesty is great, right up there with loyalty and not cheating on your fiancé. She laughed, but it sounded forced. That's what I love about you, always so literal. Her phone buzzed with another notification, and her face lit up in a way that it hadn't when she looked at me in months. You know, Brandon was telling me about this couple he knows who have such an amazing relationship because they're completely transparent about everything. Brandon, the personal trainer at her gym who looked like he'd been carved from protein powder and bad decisions. I'd met him exactly once, and he'd spent the entire conversation talking about his core philosophy of fitness while flexing muscles I didn't know existed. Transparent about what exactly? I asked, though I was pretty sure I didn't want to hear the answer. Just everything. They don't hide anything from each other. They're completely open about their needs, their desires, their connections with other people. Maya finally looked at me, and there was something in her eyes I couldn't quite place. Guilt, maybe, or excitement. I think we should try being more like that. I closed my laptop and gave her my full attention. This conversation felt important in the way that conversations about taking a break and it's not you, it's me feel important. Maya, are you trying to tell me something? No! God, no! I'm just saying we should be more honest about everything. Like, what if we went on one of those reality shows? You know, like Cheaters or something, just to prove how solid we are. I stared at her. Maya Jensen, the woman who refused to leave the house without a full face of makeup, wanted to go on national television to prove our relationship was solid. The same woman who'd made me retake our engagement photos 6 times because the lighting wasn't Instagram-worthy. You want to go on Cheaters, I said slowly, the show where they catch people cheating on their partners. Not to catch anyone cheating, she said quickly, just to show everyone how wrong they'd be about us. Think about the content I could create from that. The engagement would be incredible. And there it was. Everything always came back to content, engagement, and her precious follower count. I should have ended it right there. Should have packed my bags and moved back in with my buddy Jake until I found my own place. Should have done a lot of things. Instead, I laughed. Maya, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. What's next? A reality show about our wedding planning. She didn't laugh back. Actually, I already contacted them. The room went silent except for the hum of our air conditioning and the distant sound of traffic on Highway 75. I felt something cold settle in my stomach, like that moment when you realize you've forgotten to save an important document and your computer just crashed. You already contacted them, I repeated. They're really interested, Leo. The producer, Kendra, she thinks we'd be perfect for the show. Young, attractive couple, social media following, dramatic potential. Maya was getting excited now, the way she did when she talked about brand partnerships and sponsored posts. They want to start filming next week. I stood up and walked to the kitchen, partly because I needed a beer and partly because I needed to put some distance between myself and whatever this conversation was becoming. Our apartment was one of those modern Dallas complexes with granite countertops and stainless steel appliances that looked impressive in photos but felt cold in real life. Kind of like our relationship, now that I thought about it. "Let me get this straight," I called from the kitchen as I opened a Shiner bock. "You want us to go on a show called Cheaters, which exists solely to catch people cheating on their partners, to prove that neither of us is cheating." "Exactly." I walked back to the living room and sat down in the chair across from the couch instead of next to her. "Maya, do you understand how that sounds to someone who isn't completely insane?" Her face fell, and for a moment, she looked like the woman I'd fallen in love with 3 years ago. Vulnerable, real, human. Then her phone buzzed again, and the mask slipped back into place. "You don't support my career," she said, and I could hear the practiced hurt in her voice. This was an argument we'd had before, usually when I questioned her latest scheme to go viral or land a sponsorship deal. This could be huge for my brand. "Your brand," I said, taking a long drink of beer. "Right. And what about our relationship? What about the fact that going on a show about cheating might make people think one of us is actually cheating? Are you cheating, Leo?" The question hung in the air like smoke. I looked at my fiancé, really looked at her, and saw a stranger. When had she become someone who could ask me that question with such casual suspicion? "No, Maya, I'm not cheating. Are you?" "Of course not." But she looked away when she said it, and her phone buzzed again. She glanced at it instinctively, and I saw her smile before she caught herself. That's when I knew. Maybe I'd known for weeks, maybe months, but that's the moment when I finally admitted it to myself. Maya Jensen, my fiancée of 6 months, the woman I'd been planning to spend my life with, was cheating on me. And now she wanted to go on national television to prove she wasn't. The funny thing about betrayal is how it sharpens your memory. Suddenly, I could recall every late-night client session, every secretive phone call, every time she'd accused me of being paranoid when I'd asked simple questions about her schedule. The pieces fell into place like a puzzle I'd been trying to solve without realizing it. "You know what, Maya?" I said, finishing my beer and standing up. "Let's do it. Let's go on Cheaters." She looked surprised. "Really?" "Really. I think it'll be very educational." I smiled at her, and for the first time in months, it was a genuine smile. "I'll call them tomorrow and set everything up." "Oh, Leo, that's amazing. This is going to be so good for us." She jumped up and hugged me, and I could smell Brandon's cologne on her hair. "Yeah," I said, patting her back. "I think it's going to be exactly what we both need." That night, after Maya had gone to bed early claiming she had an early morning session with a new client, I sat in my home office and did what I do best. I researched. I found Kendra Walsh, the producer Maya had mentioned, and I learned everything I could about how Cheaters worked. Then I did something that would change everything. I forwarded Maya's phone records to the show's producers with a simple note. "Hi, Kendra. This is Leo Carter, Maya's fiancé. I understand you're interested in featuring us on your show. I thought you might find these call logs interesting. Spoiler alert, I'm not the one you want to follow. Looking forward to working with you." I hit send and leaned back in my chair, feeling something I hadn't felt in months, excitement about the future. The Cheaters crew arrived on a Monday morning like a small army of cynicism and cheap coffee. Kendra Walsh turned out to be exactly what I'd expected, sharp-eyed, calculating, and wearing the kind of smile that suggested she'd seen every variety of human betrayal and found most of it boring. "Leo, right? I'm Kendra." She shook my hand with the firm grip of someone who'd spent years dealing with liars and cheaters. "Thanks for reaching out. Your email was illuminating." "Just trying to be helpful," I said, glancing over at Maya, who was in full performance mode. She'd gotten up at 5 a.m. to do her hair and makeup, claiming she wanted to look natural for the cameras. The irony wasn't lost on me. "So here's how this works," Kendra explained as her crew set up equipment in our living room. "We're going to follow Leo around for about a week, documenting his daily routine. Meanwhile, our investigation team will look into any suspicious behavior." Maya nodded enthusiastically. "This is going to be so good. Leo's literally the most boring person in Dallas. His idea of excitement is finding a new debugging technique." Tom, the camera operator, snorted. "Lady, you'd be surprised how many boring people we end up catching." "Not Leo," Maya said with complete confidence. "He's like a golden retriever in human form, loyal, predictable, and completely devoted to me." I almost choked on my coffee. "Woof," I said dryly, which made Jess, the sound technician, laugh. For the next 3 days, I lived my life with a camera crew following me around like the world's most expensive entourage. They filmed me at work, debugging code and attending mind-numbing meetings about user interface optimization. They followed me to the grocery store, where I spent 20 minutes comparing prices on pasta sauce. They documented my evening routine of takeout Chinese food and Netflix. "This is painful to watch," Tom muttered on day 2 as I organized my sock drawer. "Dude, please tell me you have some kind of secret life. Underground poker games, strip clubs, anything." "Sorry to disappoint," I said, holding up 2 nearly identical black socks. "This is about as wild as it gets, although sometimes I use fabric softener, which really makes me feel like I'm living on the edge." What the cameras didn't catch was the real show happening at Maya's gym. While they were following me around like I was the most boring man in America, I was getting regular updates from my best friend Jake, who'd become my unofficial spy. Jake Morrison had been my roommate in college and was still the closest thing I had to a brother. He was a freelance graphic designer with too much time on his hands and a natural talent for sarcasm that rivaled my own. When I'd told him about Maya and the show, he'd volunteered to do some reconnaissance. "Dude, it's like watching a really bad soap opera," Jake told me over the phone on Wednesday night. "She's not even trying to be subtle. I saw her and Captain Protein Powder making out in the supply closet like they're teenagers. Please tell me you got pictures. Better, I got video and audio. Apparently Brandon's not just her personal trainer. He's been giving her very personal training sessions for at least 2 months." I was sitting in my car in the parking lot of a Starbucks, having told the camera crew I needed to make a work call. The truth was, I needed 5 minutes without cameras to process the fact that my 3-year relationship had been a lie for longer than I'd thought. 2 months, I repeated. At least. Maybe longer. "Leo, man, I'm sorry. I know this sucks." Actually, it doesn't suck as much as you'd think. And that was the truth. The anger I'd expected to feel was there, but it was overshadowed by something else. Relief. I think I've been looking for an excuse to get out of this relationship for a while now. "So what's the plan? You gonna let the TV crew catch them?" I smiled, watching people hurry in and out of the coffee shop, everyone absorbed in their own little dramas. "Jake, my friend, that would be telling. But let's just say I think this show is going to be a lot more interesting than anyone expects." The next day, I decided to have some fun with the situation. I started giving the crew helpful tips about Maya's schedule. "You know, if you really want to see how dedicated Maya is to her work, you should check out the gym around 7 p.m., I told Kendra over lunch. "That's when she does her most intensive training sessions." "With clients?" Kendra asked, making notes. "With someone anyway. She's always talking about how hard she works in the evenings. Very hands-on approach to fitness instruction." Kendra's eyes sharpened. "Interesting. And you're okay with her working such long hours?" "Oh, absolutely. Maya's very passionate about her work. She puts her whole body into it, you might say." Tom, who was filming our conversation, grinned behind his camera. I was starting to like the crew. They had the kind of dark humor that comes from seeing too much of humanity's worst behavior. That evening, I suggested we all go to Maya's gym so I could show the cameras my supportive boyfriend routine. Maya was thrilled. "This is perfect," she said, checking her makeup in her phone camera. "Everyone will see how supportive and trusting our relationship is." "That's definitely what they'll see," I agreed. We arrived at Fit Life Gym at 6:45 p.m. Maya immediately went into performance mode, introducing me to everyone like I was a prop in her personal reality show. The gym was one of those trendy places with exposed brick walls and expensive equipment, the kind of place where people went to be seen working out as much as to actually exercise. "And this is my fiancé, Leo," Maya announced to a group of women by the elliptical machines. "We're going to be on TV." The women made appropriate noises of excitement, but I noticed a few exchanged glances. In small communities like gyms, secrets don't stay secret for long. "Where's Brandon?" I asked innocently. "I'd love to meet this trainer you're always talking about." Maya's smile flickered for just a moment. "Oh, he's probably with a client. He's very popular." "I bet he is," I said. Kendra and the crew were setting up in the corner, trying to be unobtrusive but failing spectacularly. Nothing says reality TV drama like a full camera crew in a suburban gym. At exactly 7 p.m., Maya excused herself to check on some equipment in the back. I waited exactly 3 minutes, then turned to Kendra. "You know, I'm worried about Maya. She's been working so hard lately, staying late every night. Maybe you should check on her, make sure she's not overexerting herself." Kendra's smile was sharp as a knife. "That's very thoughtful of you, Leo." What happened next was better than anything I could have planned. The camera crew, led by Kendra, made their way toward the back of the gym where the supply room was located. I followed at a distance, along with half the gym members who'd figured out something dramatic was about to happen. The supply room door was closed, but not locked. Kendra didn't hesitate. She pushed it open, just as Tom got his camera ready. Inside, Maya and Brandon were locked in an embrace that definitely wasn't part of any fitness routine I'd ever seen. Maya's shirt was half off, Brandon's hands were places they shouldn't have been, and both of them were so absorbed in their workout that they didn't notice the door opening. "Maya Jensen?" Kendra's voice cut through the room like a blade. Maya's head snapped up, her face cycling through confusion, recognition, and pure terror in the span of about 2 seconds. Brandon, to his credit, just looked confused. "What the hell?" Maya scrambled to fix her shirt, while Brandon tried to figure out why there was a camera pointed at him. "I'm Kendra Walsh from Cheaters," Kendra announced. "We're here investigating reports of infidelity." The silence that followed was beautiful. Maya's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Brandon looked like he was trying to solve a math problem with his muscles, and I could hear the collective intake of breath from the gym members who'd gathered behind us. "Leo?" Maya's voice was small, scared, nothing like the confident influencer who'd been performing for the cameras all week. I stepped into view, and I have to admit, I'd been practicing this moment in my head for days. "Hey, babe," I said with a smile. "How was your workout? You look a little flushed. Must have been quite a session." Maya's face went through several more color changes. "Leo, I can explain." "Oh, I'm sure you can. You're very creative." I looked at Brandon, who was still trying to process what was happening. "And you must be Brandon. Maya talks about you all the time. Says you really know how to work her out." "Dude, Brandon started, but I held up a hand. "Don't worry about it, man. I'm actually grateful. You've solved a problem I've been struggling with for months." "What problem?" Maya asked, and I could hear the desperation in her voice. I looked directly into the camera, knowing this moment would define everything that came next. "The problem of how to break up with someone who's completely obsessed with their public image," I said. Turns out, reality TV was the perfect solution. The gym had gone completely silent, except for the hum of the air conditioning and the whir of Tom's camera. Maya's face was pale now, the reality of the situation finally sinking in. Guess it wasn't leg day after all, I added, and I swear I heard someone in the crowd snicker. That's when Maya started crying. By the time I woke up the next morning, the video had already been uploaded to the show's social media accounts as a preview of the upcoming episode. My phone was buzzing with notifications like an angry wasp trapped in a jar. The first text was from Jake. "Dude, you're viral. Check Instagram." The second was from my mother. "Leo, honey, what's happening? Mrs. Peterson called and said you're on the internet." The third was from Maya. "We need to talk. This is not how this was supposed to go." I made coffee and opened Instagram. The clip had been viewed 2.3 million times in 12 hours. The comments were a mix of support for me, outrage at Maya, and the usual internet chaos that happens when real life becomes entertainment. This man is a legend. Maya Jensen is done. Influencer career over. The way he said leg day, I'm done. Poor guy, but also savage response. Maya had posted a lengthy Instagram story trying to control the narrative, but it was too late. The internet had already decided who the villain was, and it wasn't me. "I want to address the rumors and speculation about my relationship," her story began. "What you saw on that video was taken completely out of context. Brandon and I were having a private conversation about my fitness goals, and the camera crew deliberately made it look like something it wasn't." The comments on her post were brutal. "Girl, we have eyes." "Private conversation with your shirt off? Sure, Jan." The audacity of this woman. Leo dodged a bullet. Good for him. I was reading through the chaos when my doorbell rang. Maya stood on my doorstep looking like she hadn't slept, which was probably true. Her usual Instagram perfect appearance was replaced by swollen eyes, messy hair, and yesterday's clothes. "Can I come in?" she asked. "I don't think that's a good idea," I said, but I stepped aside anyway. Old habits die hard. She walked into our living room, my living room now, I supposed, and looked around like she was seeing it for the first time. "This is insane, Leo. The video, the comments, everything. My phone hasn't stopped ringing." "I bet." I sat down in my chair, the same one I'd been sitting in when she'd first suggested going on the show. "How's Brandon handling his 15 minutes of fame?" Her face crumpled. "He's not answering my calls. His gym fired him this morning." I felt a brief moment of sympathy, then remembered the 2 months of lies and the half-off shirt in the supply closet. "That's rough. Maybe he can find work at another gym. I hear the fitness industry is very hands-on." "This isn't funny, Leo. My career is ruined. I've lost 3 sponsorship deals already and my follower count is dropping by the thousands." "Maya, you cheated on me. On national television. What did you think was going to happen?" She started crying again, but this time it felt calculated. Maya had always been good at turning on the tears when she needed them. I made a mistake, one mistake, and now my entire life is falling apart. One mistake? I stood up and walked to the kitchen, needing distance. "Maya, Jake saw you with Brandon weeks ago. This wasn't one mistake, this was a pattern." Jake was spying on me? Jake was looking out for me, which is more than I can say for my fiancé. She followed me into the kitchen, and I could see her switching tactics. The tears stopped, and her voice got stronger. "You planned this. You knew about Brandon, and you set me up. I gave you every opportunity to tell me the truth. Instead, you suggested we go on a show called Cheaters to prove how faithful we were. The irony is so thick you could cut it with a knife." "You're enjoying this," she accused. I considered the question seriously. Was I enjoying this? Maya's career was imploding, her reputation was destroyed, and her personal life was in shambles. A better man might have felt guilty. "You know what, Maya? I am enjoying this. For 3 years, I supported your dreams, your career, your social media obsession. I attended your influencer events. I posed for your content. I played the role of the supportive boyfriend while you built your brand. And the whole time, you were cheating on me with a guy who thinks core philosophy is a deep conversation topic. Her face hardened. Brandon is a good man. Brandon is an idiot who just lost his job because he couldn't keep his hands off his client. But hey, maybe you two can start a fitness channel together. Workouts for cheaters. I bet it would go viral. She slapped me. Not hard, but the sound echoed in the kitchen like a gunshot. Feel better? I asked, rubbing my cheek. Go to hell, Leo. Already been there. It looked a lot like the last 6 months of our relationship. She stormed out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. I finished my coffee and checked my phone again. The video was up to 4.1 million views. My phone rang. Unknown number. Leo Carter? Speaking. This is Jennifer Walsh from Channel 8 News. We'd love to have you on our morning show to talk about your experience on cheaters. I hung up and immediately got another call, then another. By noon, I'd been contacted by 3 local news stations, 2 podcasts, and something called the Betrayal blog. Jake showed up around lunch with sandwiches and beer. You're famous, dude. Like, actually famous. There are memes about you. He showed me his phone. Someone had taken a screenshot of my face right after I'd said leg day and turned it into a meme with the caption, "When you're empty inside but still got jokes." I don't know if I should be honored or concerned, I said. Be honored. You're the hero of every guy who's ever been cheated on. Look at this. He scrolled through Twitter, showing me hundreds of tweets using the hashtag #LegDayLeo. This guy is my spirit animal. Leo Carter handled this better than I handle ordering pizza. Maya really thought she could gaslight this man on national TV. The audacity. I want to buy Leo Carter a beer. You know what's really crazy? Jake said, taking a bite of his sandwich. Maya's still trying to control the narrative. She posted another story claiming you emotionally abused her. I looked at his phone. Maya's latest Instagram story was a wall of text about emotional manipulation and public humiliation and toxic masculinity. She's really doubling down, I observed. It's not working. Her comments are turned off, but people are responding in their own posts. She's getting roasted from every angle. I should have felt worse about Maya's public humiliation. We'd been together for 3 years, engaged for 6 months. I'd loved her. Or at least, I'd loved the person I thought she was. But watching her try to spin her own cheating into victimhood just reinforced that I'd made the right choice. You know what the best part is? I said to Jake. I don't have to do anything else. She's destroying herself. I was wrong about that. Over the next few days, Maya's desperation reached new heights. She started a podcast called My Truth, where she spent an hour explaining her side of the story. She claimed I was controlling, that I'd isolated her from her friends, that I'd sabotaged her relationship with Brandon out of jealousy. The podcast got exactly 12 downloads. She tried to get back into the gym where she'd worked, but they'd already replaced her with someone who didn't come with viral cheating videos. She reached out to her old sponsors, but none of them wanted to associate their brands with adultery scandals. Brandon, meanwhile, had completely disappeared from social media. His Instagram went private, his Twitter account was deleted, and according to Jake's reconnaissance, he'd moved back in with his parents in Oklahoma. He left her, Jake reported over drinks at our favorite bar. Apparently, being internet famous for cheating isn't great for the personal training business. Shocking, I said, raising my beer. Here's to Brandon, who discovered that actions have consequences. And here's to Maya, who's about to discover the same thing. We clinked bottles, and I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Genuine happiness. Not the forced contentment I'd been living with while Maya built her brand on our relationship, but actual joy. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. You think you won, but this isn't over. You destroyed my life, and I'm going to make you pay. I showed the text to Jake, who rolled his eyes. She's really committed to this victim narrative, isn't she? Apparently. I deleted the text and ordered another beer. Let her try. What's she going to do? Make another podcast? I was about to find out that Maya Jensen was more creative than I'd given her credit for. Maya's first attempt at revenge was almost adorable in its incompetence. She tried to get me fired by calling my boss and claiming I'd been cyberbullying her online. Unfortunately for Maya, my boss Rick was a 50-year-old divorced dad who'd already seen the viral video and thought the whole thing was hilarious. "Carter," Rick called me into his office the morning after Maya's call. "Some woman called yesterday claiming you're harassing her online. I told her I'd look into it." I sat down across from his desk, genuinely curious about where this was going. "So, I looked into it," Rick continued, turning his computer monitor toward me. "Turns out you're internet famous. My daughter showed me the memes. Leg Day Leo, right?" "That's me," I said. "The woman on the phone, that's your ex-fiancé, the one who was cheating?" "Maya Jensen." "Yeah." Rick leaned back in his chair and laughed. "Son, I've been divorced twice. Both times because my wives were stepping out. If I'd handled it half as well as you did, I might still have some dignity left." He paused. "Also, our website traffic is up 30% since people found out you work here. So whatever you're doing, keep it up." I walked back to my desk feeling pretty good about life, but Maya was just getting started. Her next move was trying to turn my friends against me. She started reaching out to people from college, coworkers, anyone she could find on social media, telling them her version of events. The problem was, most of these people had already seen the video and formed their own opinions. My college buddy Steve texted me, "Dude, your crazy ex just messaged me on Facebook trying to convince me you're some kind of sociopath. I told her I've known you for 10 years and the most sociopathic thing you've ever done is put pineapple on pizza." Maya's campaign to destroy my reputation was failing spectacularly, but she wasn't giving up. That's when she made her biggest mistake. She went after Jake. Jake called me at work on Thursday afternoon, and I could hear the laughter in his voice before he even spoke. "Leo, you're not going to believe this. Maya just showed up at my apartment." "What? Why?" "Apparently, I'm the toxic influence in your life who convinced you to emotionally abuse her. She wants me to admit that I manipulated you into setting her up." I put Jake on speaker and leaned back in my chair. "Please tell me you recorded this." "Better. She's still here, and she's threatening to call the police if I don't confess to being part of your conspiracy against her." "Jake, are you safe?" "Oh, I'm fine. She's about 5 feet tall and crying. I'm more worried about my neighbors complaining about the noise." "Put her on the phone." There was some shuffling, then Maya's voice came through the speaker, shrill and desperate. "Leo, tell your friend to stop lying about me." "Maya, what are you doing at Jake's apartment?" "I'm trying to get someone to tell the truth. Everyone's lying about me and it's not fair." I looked around the office. A couple of my coworkers had stopped what they were doing to listen to the conversation. Maya's voice was loud enough that half the floor could probably hear her. "Maya, the truth is that you cheated on me with your personal trainer, and it was caught on camera. There's no conspiracy. There's no manipulation. You made choices, and now you're dealing with the consequences." "That's not true. You planned this whole thing." "I planned for us to go on a show that catches cheaters, and it caught a cheater. The system worked exactly as designed." "I hate you," she screamed, and then the line went silent. Jake called back a minute later. "She's gone." Stormed out muttering something about making us both pay. "You okay?" "I'm fine, but Leo, she's really losing it. Like, genuinely unhinged. You might want to be careful." I promised Jake I'd be cautious, but honestly, I wasn't too worried. What was Maya going to do? Make another podcast? Turns out, Maya Jensen was more resourceful than I'd given her credit for. Friday evening, I was at home enjoying a quiet night of Chinese takeout and Netflix when my doorbell rang. I opened the door to find 2 police officers standing on my doorstep. "Leo Carter?" Yes? We need to ask you some questions about Maya Jensen. My stomach dropped. Is she okay? She filed a restraining order against you, sir. Claims you've been stalking and harassing her. I invited the officers in and showed them my phone, my computer, everything. I hadn't contacted Maya once since she'd left my apartment. No calls, no texts, no social media messages. The only communication between us had been her calling Jake and the threatening text she'd sent me. Sir, do you have any proof that Ms. Jensen sent you threatening messages? Officer Rodriguez asked. I showed him the text. He took a photo of it with his phone. This actually helps your case, he said. If she's claiming you're harassing her, but she's the one sending threatening messages, that contradicts her story. The other officer, whose name tag read Thompson, was scrolling through his phone. Wait, is this the guy from that viral video? The cheaters thing? That's me, I said. Dude, that was hilarious. My wife showed me that video. You handled that perfectly. Officer Rodriguez shot his partner a look. We still need to take this seriously, Thompson. Oh, absolutely, but come on, Rodriguez, you saw the video. This guy's not stalking anyone. He's just trying to live his life. They took my statement, looked at the evidence, and left with the conclusion that Maya's restraining order request would probably be denied. But the damage was done. She'd involved the police, which meant this was escalating beyond social media drama. That's when I decided it was time to stop playing defense and go on the offensive. Saturday morning, I called Kendra Walsh. Leo, how are you handling your newfound fame? Pretty well, actually. Listen, Kendra, I have a proposition for you. I'm listening. Maya's been trying to control the narrative since the video went viral. She's claiming I set her up, that I'm the real villain, that she's the victim. What would you say to a follow-up episode where we address her claims? There was silence on the other end of the line. Then Kendra laughed. Leo Carter, I think I'm in love with you. From a professional standpoint, of course. When do you want to film? How about tonight? That evening, Kendra and her crew met me at the same bar where Jake and I had been celebrating Maya's downfall. The plan was simple. Let Maya know where I'd be, film everything, and see what happened. Jake spread the word through social media that we'd be at Murphy's pub celebrating my freedom from toxic relationships. Within an hour, the post had been shared dozens of times, and I was confident Maya would see it. She didn't disappoint. At 9:30 p.m., just as Kendra's hidden cameras were rolling, Maya burst through the front door of Murphy's pub like a woman possessed. She'd clearly been drinking, her makeup was smeared, and she was wearing the same clothes I'd seen her in 2 days earlier. There he is, she shouted, pointing at me. The man who destroyed my life. The entire bar turned to look at us. Murphy's was a neighborhood place, the kind of bar where everyone knew everyone, and most of the patrons had already heard about the viral video. Some of them had their phones out, ready to record whatever was about to happen. Maya, I said calmly, not getting up from my bar stool. You look like you've been drinking. Don't you dare judge me. She stumbled toward our table, and I could smell the alcohol on her breath from 3 feet away. You think you're so smart, don't you? You think you won? I think I dodged a bullet, I replied. Several bullets, actually. Jake was recording everything on his phone while trying not to laugh. The regular bar patrons were watching like this was the best entertainment they'd seen in years. You ruined my life, Maya screamed. I lost my job, my sponsors, my friends, everything. You lost those things because you cheated on your fiancé and then tried to lie about it on national television. I didn't make you do any of that. You set me up. I stood up slowly, and the bar got quieter. This was the moment I'd been waiting for, the chance to end this drama once and for all. Maya, let me ask you something. When you suggested we go on Cheaters, what exactly were you planning? She hesitated, and I could see the wheels turning in her alcohol-impaired brain. I wanted to prove our relationship was strong. Really? Because I've been thinking about that conversation and I've come up with a different theory. I walked closer to her, and she backed up a step. I think you were planning to set me up. I think you and Brandon cooked up a scheme where you'd catch me cheating with some fake girlfriend, then you'd play the forgiving fiancé on national television. Great content for your social media, lots of sympathy, maybe a book deal about forgiveness and second chances. Maya's face went white. That's not... You're crazy. The only problem with your plan was that I'm not a cheater, so when the cameras started rolling, they caught the real cheater instead. You're lying! But her voice was weak now, and everyone in the bar could see the truth written on her face. Am I? Because that would explain why you were so confident about going on the show. It would explain why you contacted them without talking to me first. And it would explain why you're so angry that your plan backfired. Maya looked around the bar, realizing that everyone was staring at her, that phones were recording, that this moment would probably end up online within the hour. I hate you, she whispered. I know, I said. But Maya, here's the thing. I don't think about you at all anymore. She started crying then, not the calculated tears she'd used to try to manipulate me, but real broken sobs. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Then she threw her drink at me. The glass hit me in the chest, soaking my shirt with what smelled like cheap wine and regret. The bar erupted in shocked laughter and a few gasps. Maya Jensen, ladies and gentlemen, I said, wiping wine off my face. Influencer, fitness instructor, and apparently assault enthusiast. That's when Murphy, the bar owner, stepped in. Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. This is harassment, Maya shouted. He's harassing me. Lady, he's been sitting quietly drinking a beer. You're the one who came in here screaming and throwing drinks. Out, now. Two of the regular customers, both of whom looked like they could bench press a car, stood up and started walking toward Maya. She got the message. This isn't over, Leo, she shouted as she backed toward the door. I'm going to make you pay for what you did to me. Looking forward to it, I called after her. She slammed the door so hard that a picture fell off the wall. The bar was silent for about 3 seconds. Then everyone started talking at once. People were buying me drinks, asking for selfies, treating me like I'd just won the World Series. Jake was grinning like an idiot. Dude, that was incredible. She literally proved every point you made about her. Kendra appeared at my elbow, practically glowing with excitement. Leo, that was television gold. Pure, unscripted, beautiful television gold. I looked down at my wine-stained shirt and started laughing. Not a polite chuckle, but deep, genuine laughter that came from somewhere I hadn't accessed in months. You know what the funny thing is? I said to Jake and Kendra. I actually feel sorry for her. She's so desperate to be the victim that she can't see she's the villain in her own story. Don't feel too sorry for her, Jake said, showing me his phone. This is already going viral. Wine thrower Maya is trending. I looked at the screen. Someone had already posted a video of Maya throwing the drink at me, and the comments were brutal. This woman has lost her damn mind. Leo is living rent-free in her head. Imagine being this pressed about consequences for your own actions. Maya really said, let me make this worse for myself. That night, I went home to my quiet apartment, took a long shower, and went to bed feeling more at peace than I had in years. Maya Jensen was no longer my problem. She was her own problem now, and frankly, she was welcome to it. I had no idea that Maya had one more card to play, and it was going to be her biggest mistake yet. Maya's final gambit came exactly 1 week after the wine-throwing incident at Murphy's pub. I should have seen it coming, but I'd made the mistake of thinking she'd finally hit rock bottom and would start the long climb back to sanity. I was wrong. Sunday morning, I woke up to my phone buzzing with notifications. Not the usual social media alerts I'd gotten used to, but something different. Text messages from people I hadn't heard from in years. Leo, what the hell is Maya saying about you? Dude, check the news. Your ex has lost her mind. Is any of this true? I made coffee and opened my laptop. Maya had spent the weekend doing interviews with anyone who would listen to her, and apparently, she'd found some people willing to broadcast her version of events. The headline on a gossip blog called Dallas Drama read, "Local influencer reveals dark truth about viral revenge video." The article was a masterpiece of manipulation and selective editing. Maya had given an interview claiming that I'd been emotionally abusive throughout our relationship, that I'd isolated her from her friends and family, and that the entire cheaters incident had been orchestrated by me as the ultimate act of psychological warfare. "Leo Carter is a master manipulator," Maya was quoted as saying. "He spent months gaslighting me, making me feel crazy, convincing me that up was down and black was white. When I finally found someone who made me feel valued and appreciated, Leo couldn't handle it. So he destroyed my life on national television." The article included carefully selected screenshots of text messages between Maya and her friends, photos of me looking controlling at various events, and a detailed timeline of our relationship that painted me as a calculating sociopath. It was impressive, in a horrifying way. Maya had taken 3 years of normal relationship moments and reframed them as evidence of abuse. A photo of me with my arm around her at a party became possessive behavior. Text messages asking where she was became surveillance and control. My suggestion that we spend a quiet night at home instead of going to another influencer event became isolation tactics. My phone rang. "Jake. Please tell me you've seen this," he said without preamble. "I'm reading it now. This is—" I scrolled through the article, looking for anything that resembled the truth. "This is completely insane." It gets worse. She did a podcast interview with some true crime blogger. 3 hours of her crying and talking about surviving narcissistic abuse. It's already got 50,000 downloads. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. This wasn't just Maya having a public breakdown anymore. This was a coordinated attack on my reputation, and it was working. The comments on the article were split between people who'd seen the original video and knew better, and people who were buying Maya's victim narrative completely. "We need to respond to this," Jake said. "We can't let her control the story." "With what?" "She's taken every normal moment from our relationship and twisted it into evidence that I'm a monster. How do you defend against that?" "With the truth, and with evidence." Jake was right. Maya had made one crucial mistake in her campaign to destroy me. She'd lied about things that could be proven false. I spent Sunday gathering evidence, screenshots of Maya's social media posts from throughout our relationship, showing her happy, affectionate, and clearly not being abused. Text messages she'd sent to mutual friends talking about how much she loved me and how excited she was about our wedding. Photos from events where she'd insisted I come with her, contradicting her claims that I'd isolated her. But the most damaging evidence came from an unexpected source: Maya herself. Remember the podcast she'd started after the cheating video went viral? The one that got 12 downloads? I'd listened to it at the time, but now I went back and really analyzed what she'd said. In that original podcast, Maya's story had been completely different. She'd admitted to having feelings for Brandon, claimed the physical relationship had only been going on for a few weeks, and portrayed the whole thing as a moment of weakness rather than the result of systematic abuse. "I made a mistake," she'd said in the podcast. "Leo is a good man, and he didn't deserve what I did to him. I was confused about my feelings, and I handled the situation in the worst possible way." Now, just 2 weeks later, she was claiming I'd driven her into Brandon's arms through months of psychological torture. I called Kendra Walsh. "Leo, I was wondering when you'd call. Have you seen Maya's media blitz?" "I've seen it. Kendra, I want to do a live response. Tonight. Can you make that happen?" "A live response to what, exactly?" "To everything. I want to address her claims point by point with evidence, and I want to do it live so no one can say it was edited or manipulated." There was silence on the other end of the line. Then Kendra laughed. Leo Carter, you magnificent bastard. Yes, I can make that happen. How does 8 p.m. sound? Perfect. I spent the rest of Sunday preparing. Jake came over to help me organize the evidence and practice my talking points. We ordered pizza and turned my living room into a war room, with printouts and screenshots covering every surface. You know, Jake said around a mouthful of pepperoni. Most people would just let this blow over. Maya's already destroyed her own credibility. Why risk making it worse? Because she's not just attacking me anymore. She's attacking the truth. And if we let her get away with rewriting history, what's to stop the next person from doing the same thing? At 7:45 p.m., Kendra and her crew arrived to set up for the live stream. We were broadcasting on the show's Facebook page, YouTube channel, and Instagram simultaneously. Within minutes of going live, we had over 10,000 viewers. Good evening, I said, looking directly into the camera. My name is Leo Carter, and over the past few days, my ex-fiancée Maya Jensen has been telling a very different story about our relationship and the events that led to our breakup. Tonight, I want to set the record straight. I started with the basics, walking through the timeline of our relationship with evidence to back up every claim. I showed screenshots of Maya's social media posts from our early days together, her excited texts about our engagement, her own words describing me as the most supportive partner ever. This is Maya's Instagram post from 6 months ago, I said, holding up a printout. She's announcing our engagement, and she wrote, I'm so lucky to have found someone who supports my dreams and makes me laugh every day. Leo is my best friend and my biggest cheerleader. The viewer count was climbing. 15,000, 20,000, 25,000. Now, Maya claims that I isolated her from her friends and family. Let me show you some evidence that contradicts that claim. I pulled out photos from Maya's birthday party, which I'd organized and paid for. Photos from her sister's wedding, where I'd been the one to suggest we fly out to Colorado. Screenshots of group chats where Maya had invited me to hang out with her friends. Maya also claims that I was controlling about her career. Here's a screenshot of a conversation we had 3 months ago, where she's thanking me for helping her negotiate a sponsorship deal with a fitness apparel company. The comments were flying by so fast I couldn't read them, but Jake was monitoring the response on his phone and giving me thumbs up. Now, let's talk about the timeline of Maya's relationship with Brandon, because this is where her story really falls apart. I played audio from Maya's original podcast, where she'd admitted the affair had been going on for weeks, not months. This is Maya, 2 weeks ago, describing her relationship with Brandon as a moment of weakness and a mistake. But now she's claiming it was the result of months of psychological abuse that drove her to seek comfort elsewhere. I paused and looked directly into the camera. Maya, if you're watching this, I want you to know that I don't hate you. I'm disappointed in you, and I'm hurt by your lies, but I don't hate you. What I hate is what you're trying to do to the truth. The viewer count hit 50,000. You see, Maya has a problem with accountability. When she got caught cheating, it was my fault for setting her up. When her career suffered consequences, it was my fault for ruining her reputation. When she threw a drink at me in a bar, it was somehow still my fault for making her do it. I pulled out the final piece of evidence, a recording Jake had made of Maya's drunken rant at his apartment. This is Maya Jensen 3 days ago, admitting that she's been lying about me to try to destroy my reputation. I played the audio, and Maya's voice filled the room. I don't care if it's true or not. I just want him to hurt the way I'm hurting. The silence that followed was deafening. Even the comments seemed to pause for a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, that's who Maya Jensen really is. Not a victim of abuse, not a woman driven to infidelity by a controlling partner, but someone who's willing to lie and manipulate to avoid taking responsibility for her own choices. I stood up and walked closer to the camera. Maya, this ends now. You can keep telling your lies, you can keep playing the victim, But the truth is out there now, and the truth is that you cheated on someone who loved you, got caught, and are now trying to destroy that person rather than face the consequences of your actions. I sat back down and smiled. To everyone else watching, thank you for your time. The evidence I've presented tonight will be available on my website for anyone who wants to verify it. I won't be doing any more interviews about this situation because, frankly, I'm done giving Maya Jensen free publicity. I looked into the camera one last time. Maya, if you're still watching, I have one final message for you. Move on. Find a therapist, work on yourself, figure out why you think lying is easier than accountability. But stop trying to drag me down with you. I'm done playing your games. The live stream ended with over 75,000 viewers and comments that were overwhelmingly supportive. Within an hour, clips from the stream were being shared across every social media platform, and the hashtag #MayaLies was trending. Maya's response came at 2 a.m. in the form of a desperate Instagram live stream where she was clearly drunk and crying, trying to defend herself against the evidence I'd presented. It was painful to watch, and most people didn't. She got maybe 300 viewers, and the comments were brutal. By Tuesday morning, the gossip blog that had published Maya's original interview had issued a retraction and apology. The podcast that had featured her 3-hour sob story had removed the episode and posted a statement about the importance of fact-checking. Maya's remaining sponsors dropped her. Her Instagram account was flooded with people calling her out for her lies. Her follower count, which had already been dropping, went into freefall. Brandon, who had been silent throughout Maya's media campaign, finally spoke up with a statement posted to his private Facebook account that was immediately screenshotted and shared everywhere. I want to set the record straight about my involvement with Maya Jensen. Our relationship was consensual and had nothing to do with any alleged abuse by Leo Carter. Maya approached me. Maya initiated the physical relationship, and Maya suggested we keep it secret from Leo. I take full responsibility for my part in the affair, but I will not be part of Maya's campaign to rewrite history. Leo Carter is a good man who didn't deserve what we did to him. That was the final nail in Maya's coffin. With Brandon contradicting her story, with evidence disproving her claims, and with her own words being used against her, Maya Jensen's reputation was completely destroyed. She deleted all her social media accounts on Wednesday. On Thursday, I heard from a mutual friend that she'd moved back in with her parents in Oklahoma. On Friday, I got a text from an unknown number. "You win. I'm sorry." I deleted it without responding. Maya Jensen was finally out of my life for good, but I had one more surprise coming. 3 weeks after Maya disappeared from social media, Kendra Walsh called me with an offer I couldn't refuse. "Leo, how would you feel about doing a live reunion special? Cheaters, where are they now? We've had more requests for a follow-up to your story than any episode in the show's history. I was sitting in my office at work, debugging code and enjoying the relative peace of my Maya-free existence. The internet had moved on to other dramas. The memes had mostly died down, and I was finally starting to feel like a normal person again. I don't know, Kendra. I'm kind of enjoying the quiet. Leo, we're talking about a primetime special on a major network, national television. And here's the kicker. Maya has agreed to participate." That got my attention. Maya agreed to be on TV again? After everything that happened? She reached out to us through a lawyer. Apparently she wants one final chance to tell her story. She's claiming she has new evidence that will vindicate her. I leaned back in my chair and considered this. Maya Jensen, who had been thoroughly discredited and humiliated, who had fled social media and moved back in with her parents, wanted one more shot at destroying me on national television. What kind of evidence? She won't say. But Leo, here's the thing. Whether she has evidence or not, this is your chance to end this once and for all, on the biggest stage possible. Are you interested? I thought about it for exactly 10 seconds. When do we film? The reunion special was scheduled for the following Friday, live from a studio in downtown Dallas. The format would be simple. Maya and I would sit across from each other with the host, discuss what had happened since the original episode aired, and address Maya's claims. I spent the week preparing, but honestly, there wasn't much to prepare for. I had the truth on my side, along with mountains of evidence. Maya was the one who would have to explain her lies, her manipulations, and her complete meltdown over the past month. Jake was more nervous than I was. Dude, what if she actually has something? What if she's been planning this whole thing? Jake, what could she possibly have? We documented everything. Her own words contradict her story. Even Brandon threw her under the bus. I don't know, man. She's desperate, and desperate people do crazy things. Friday evening arrived, and I found myself in a television studio for the second time in my life. The set was designed to look like a living room, with comfortable chairs and soft lighting that was supposed to make everything feel intimate and conversational. Maya arrived 30 minutes before we went live, and I barely recognized her. The confident, Instagram-perfect woman I'd been engaged to was gone, replaced by someone who looked tired, defeated, and significantly thinner. She was wearing a conservative dress and minimal makeup, clearly going for a victim aesthetic. She didn't look at me when she walked onto the set. "Leo," she said quietly as she sat down in the chair across from me. "Maya." The host, a veteran television journalist named Patricia Wells, took her seat between us and reviewed her notes one final time. The studio audience was small, maybe 50 people, but I knew millions would be watching at home. "We're live in 30 seconds, the floor director announced. Maya finally looked at me, and I saw something in her eyes that I couldn't quite identify. Desperation, maybe, or determination. Whatever it was, it made me uneasy. "Good evening, and welcome to Cheaters, Where Are They Now? I'm Patricia Wells, and tonight we're following up on one of the most viral episodes in the show's history." Patricia introduced the story, showing clips from the original episode and the aftermath. The supply room confrontation, my leg day comment, Maya's media blitz, and my live response. It was surreal watching our relationship collapse in highlight reel form. "Leo, it's been 2 months since the original episode aired. How has your life changed?" "Well, Patricia, it's been an interesting experience. I've learned a lot about myself, about relationships, and about the power of social media. Overall, I'd say my life has improved significantly." "Maya, you've made some serious allegations about Leo's behavior during your relationship. You've claimed he was emotionally abusive, controlling, and manipulative. Do you stand by those claims?" Maya straightened in her chair, and I could see her switching into performance mode. "Absolutely. Everything I've said about Leo is true. He's a master manipulator who spent 3 years systematically destroying my self-esteem and isolating me from my support system. Maya, we have evidence that contradicts many of your claims. Text messages, social media posts, even audio recordings of you admitting to lying about Leo. How do you explain that?" "Those were taken out of context, or they were from times when Leo had convinced me that I was the problem. That's what abusers do, Patricia. They make their victims believe that the abuse is their fault." I had to admire her commitment to the lie. Even with overwhelming evidence against her, Maya was doubling down on her victim narrative. "Leo, how do you respond to Maya's claims?" "Patricia, I've already addressed these allegations with evidence and documentation. Maya is rewriting history to avoid taking responsibility for her choices. The facts speak for themselves." But Maya says she has new evidence tonight that will prove her claims. "Maya, what do you have to show us?" This was the moment I'd been waiting for. Maya reached into her purse and pulled out a manila folder. "I have recordings, Patricia. Recordings of Leo threatening me, manipulating me, and admitting to orchestrating the entire Cheaters setup." She handed the folder to Patricia, who opened it and examined the contents. I felt a brief moment of panic. What if Maya had somehow manufactured evidence? What if she'd hired someone to fake recordings? These appear to be transcripts of phone conversations, Patricia said, reading from the papers. Maya, can you play the actual recordings? The recordings were damaged, but I had them transcribed by a professional service. And there it was. Maya's new evidence was a folder full of fake transcripts claiming to be from conversations that had never happened. It was such a desperate, obvious lie that I almost felt embarrassed for her. Maya, I said, speaking directly to her for the first time since we'd sat down, you're really going to sit on national television and present fake transcripts as evidence? They're not fake. Then why don't you have the actual recordings? Why just transcripts from a professional service that you probably paid to type up whatever you told them to type? Patricia was looking back and forth between us like she was watching a tennis match. Maya, do you have any way to verify the authenticity of these transcripts? They're real. I know they're real because I lived through those conversations. Conversations that never happened, I said. Patricia, I'd like to make an offer. I'll submit to a polygraph test about any of these alleged conversations. Right here, right now, if Maya will do the same. Maya's face went white. That's not... Polygraphs aren't admissible in court. This isn't court, Maya. This is television. And if you're telling the truth, you should have no problem taking a polygraph. I don't have to prove anything to you. And there it was. The mask slipped, and the real Maya emerged. Not the victim she'd been playing, not the confident influencer she used to be, but the desperate, cornered liar she'd become. You're right, I said calmly. You don't have to prove anything to me, but you do have to prove it to everyone watching, and you can't, because it's all lies. Maya stood up suddenly, knocking over her chair. I don't have to listen to this. Maya, please sit down, Patricia said, but Maya was already backing away from the set. This is exactly what he does, Maya shouted, pointing at me. He makes me look crazy, he twists everything around, and then he sits there acting innocent. Maya, you're making yourself look crazy, I said, and I could hear the exhaustion in my own voice. I'm just sitting here telling the truth. The truth? You want the truth? Maya was crying now, makeup running down her face, all pretense of control gone. The truth is that I hate you. I hate you for being so perfect, for making me look bad, for ruining my life. I didn't ruin your life, Maya. You did that all by yourself. She lunged at me then, actually tried to attack me on live television. Security guards appeared from somewhere and grabbed her arms, but not before she got close enough to scream in my face. I hope you're happy. I hope you're happy with what you've done to me. The guards were dragging her toward the exit, but Maya wasn't done. You think you won? You think this is over? I'll never stop fighting you, never. The studio doors slammed shut behind her, and suddenly it was quiet except for the murmur of the shocked audience. I was still sitting in my chair, completely calm, watching the doors where Maya had disappeared. Well, I said to Patricia, who was staring at me in amazement. I think that went better than expected. The audience laughed, a release of tension that filled the studio. Leo, Patricia said, in 20 years of television, I have never seen anything like that. How are you so calm? I thought about the question seriously. How was I so calm? Maya had just had a complete breakdown on national television, had tried to attack me, had screamed and cried, and made a spectacle of herself that would be replayed on social media for years to come. Patricia, for 3 years I was in a relationship with someone who I thought I knew. It turns out I was in love with a person who didn't exist. The real Maya, the one you just saw, that's who she always was underneath. I'm not shocked by this behavior because I've been seeing glimpses of it for months. And how do you feel about Maya now? I looked at the doors where she'd been dragged out, screaming about never stopping her fight against me. I feel sorry for her. Maya Jensen is her own worst enemy, and she doesn't even realize it. She could have apologized, moved on, rebuilt her life. Instead, she chose to double down on lies and manipulation. That's not my fault, and it's not my responsibility to fix. Patricia turned to the camera. We'll be right back after this commercial break. During the break, Patricia leaned over to me. Leo, I have to ask, did you know she was going to have a meltdown like that? I hoped she wouldn't, I said honestly. But I wasn't surprised when she did. When we came back from commercial, Patricia spent the remaining segment asking me about my plans for the future, my thoughts on social media and reality television, and my advice for people going through similar situations. My advice is simple, I said, looking directly into the camera. Tell the truth, document everything, and don't let other people's drama become your drama. Maya made choices, and those choices had consequences. That's not my fault, and it's not my problem to solve. Any final words for Maya, if she's watching? I thought about it for a moment. Maya Jensen, the woman I'd planned to marry, the woman who'd cheated on me and then spent 2 months trying to destroy my life, was probably watching from her parents' house in Oklahoma, planning her next move in a war that existed only in her head. Maya, if you're watching, please get help. Not for me, not for your career, but for yourself. You're never going to be happy as long as you're blaming other people for your problems. Take responsibility, make amends, and move on. There's still time to salvage your life, but only if you stop trying to destroy mine. The show ended with Patricia thanking me for my honesty and wishing me well in the future. As the credits rolled, I felt something I hadn't experienced since this whole mess started. Closure. Maya Jensen was no longer my problem. She was her own problem, and frankly, she was welcome to it. I walked out of that television studio a free man, leaving behind 3 years of lies, manipulation, and drama. The cameras stopped rolling, the lights went down, and Leo Carter finally got his life back. 6 months later, I heard through mutual friends that Maya had started therapy and was working at a gym in Oklahoma under her real name. She'd deleted all her social media accounts and was apparently trying to build a normal, quiet life. I was happy for her. Everyone deserves a second chance, even people who spend months trying to destroy your reputation on national television. As for me, I bought a house, got a promotion at work, and started dating a wonderful woman named Sarah, who thinks Instagram is something you send to your grandmother and has never heard of influencer culture. Life is good when it's real.